Hi, David. How are you?
I'm good, Catherine. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Do you know, I'm even having to look up the date. What is the date today? Is it the 12th?
12th, yeah.
Yeah, 12th of October. I'm in the UK. You are in Australia, and we wanted to have one of our catch-ups because it seems like things are going mad. I've been listening to sort of quite a few things happening in Australia, and I think, like everything, it seems to be very different depending where you are in Australia. Is that correct?
Yeah, very much so. So over East, they are obviously every state has a different, rate of which people are getting the thing and or what they say and so over East they've been in lockdown and New South Wales is coming out now. I don't know about Victoria, but New South Wales is coming out of it. And they've had their Freedom Day yesterday and everyone's really happy about that. And it's good to see all the businesses opening up again, which is awesome. But how long is it going to last? Who knows? And yeah, you just can't help but think they're just going to do it again because that's
Yeah.
what they've been doing the entire time. And so it is very different. A lot of the other states, most of the other states haven't really seen too much of a lockdown type situation, and as a result, all their rates of people getting the thing are quite a lot lower, I think.
Yeah.
So a good 30% or something lower, perhaps. But one thing funny is I was listening to Spotify over the weekend, and a few days before that, I was at the gym, and they said, "Oh, we're at the 48%, my state for 16 and above, it's 48%." And then I was listening to, and the news was on, and then the CV command, this guy is the commander of CV of the program, whatever you want to call it. He was like, "I'm pretty confident we're going to be able to hit 80% by the first week of December." So, what we've got 2 months to go, and he thinks they're gonna almost double their, you know, 1.5 times the rate of people getting it by then, which is crazy. Like it's not going to happen. But
Yeah.
then I was listening to Spotify and there was an ad that popped on and it said basically it was an ad pushing the thing and how we're so close to getting our live events back and we're so close to be able to do this and do that and stuff and they go and the rates are 58% in our states for 16 and over, and those figures have just been updated. And I was like, well, that was quick. They were just 48% 2 days ago. And then
And isn't that if it's true even because we've got no idea, we've got no reason to actually believe their figures either, have we?
no, because then the ad came on again, like 5 minutes later, the same ad, and it was 60%. So, like, it's ridiculous. And obviously, they're pre-recording these things for
Yeah.
when we do hit that level, but they released it a bit early, and so it's crazy.
It is really crazy, isn't it? And the one thing, I mean, you and I spoke last time, and we're having, as usual, to be very careful with our language because of the platform that this is going on. But you and I spoke, I think, last time and the time before about the one thing that we've realized over the last sort of couple of years is you actually cannot believe anything you're told at face value at all. And one of the things I'm seeing is a lot more people than are admitting are perhaps finding creative ways around the system to make it show
Mm.
that perhaps they have done something that they haven't. And not that we're promoting anything illegal or anything, but I think we cannot believe any of the factors, that any of the figures we're seeing. And if really the uptake was as good as they were hoping, there would be no need for this mass push, would there? I mean, I've been listening to this morning about, obviously, I did a chat with our mutual friend Janine and Jean Claude last night.
Oh
And
yeah.
one of the things that, the Southwest Airlines is really hitting the news now. And of course, there's all sorts of different stories as to what's really causing it. But there was also a Stu
Mm.
Peters show with about a pilot dropping dead mid-air as well. So there's a
Oh
lot
wow.
of stuff starting to come out, again, not on the mainstream, but the fact
Yeah.
these things like as once it starts hitting something like Southwest Airlines, I mean, loads of my daughter's friends have been stranded all over the country in America because they can't, their flights have been cancelled
Yeah.
and they
Okay.
can't get home. And that really
Yeah.
does get people to start questioning things, doesn't it?
Yeah. Definitely. I we had, as I'm sure you've seen, like a lot of countries are pushing this. There's certain dates. It's like
Yes.
October 1st or October 16th or December 15th or November 1st or whatever. And all these countries are doing similar dates for some reason. And that's really interesting. But what's just happened here is they've given our healthcare workers up until today, I think it was, or a couple of days from now, the end of the week perhaps, they had to have it done. They've just now extended it to November 1st. So it's obvious what's going on. They're just not getting the numbers that they want. And I think that's just the end of the story right there. But I was thinking about the whole thing. Like, why are they doing such a massive push now? You know, the US made it mandatory. We've made it mandatory in certain states, in certain in jobs and in you know certain industries and things like that. They're doing the FIFO workers, the fly in fly out mining workers. They're doing construction workers too, and a lot of them are standing up for themselves, which is great. And I was thinking today, like if the figures are not what they say they are, and I'm sure they aren't, every person that gets the first one doesn't necessarily mean they'll get the second for a bunch of different reasons.
Yeah.
Right? Anybody who does get the second doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get the third. The whole thing is it's going to fall over. And I think it already has been pretty broken from the start, to be honest. It's just that they've rolled it out so much. They've spent billions of money, dollars on marketing and just really pushing this thing. And the only reason why it's got the legs that it does is because of the media and the push around it, the marketing around it.
Completely. Now, talk us through your Ricardo Bossy. So I must hold my hand up and say, for the last couple of weeks, I've really not had a chance to listen or watch as nearly as much as I normally do because I've been so busy. And also, by the way, my daughter managed to get home from America. So she's
that's good.
home now. So just in time, I'm really, really happy and a bit more of a relaxed person because of it.
Yeah.
But have you seen the latest interviews? I saw one on Janine's Twitter this morning about his latest interview. It was an extract. It was just a couple of minutes, but basically he was saying that anyone involved in these nefarious activities, it's becoming my favorite word now, nefarious. I don't think I can spell it. Spelling's never been my strong point. But he was very clearly saying you've got till the end of October to do a turnaround, or if not, there's no going back for you. Did you hear that interview?
Yeah, I did. I saw that. He is the only person, I think. I mean, there are a few other politicians who are siding with the people now. For whatever reason, I don't know. I mean, you never can tell because a lot of these people knew about the 90-year suppression order and never said anything. They still haven't said anything,
Yeah.
They're standing up for people's rights, which is great, but maybe, why didn't they do that last year?
Yeah.
Why didn't they do it 18 months ago? Ricardo's been the only person that I know of who's been on it ever since. He's been talking about the suppression order ever since I met him, ever since I was aware of him. He's been talking about doing all the things that we should be doing. He started his journey, as far as I'm aware, at least 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, but what I love about him is that he's very blunt, he's very to the point, and it's quite obvious that he knows more than he's letting on.
Absolutely.
And I think you and I both know what that means.
Yeah. And I think most of our listeners know what it means as well.
Yeah, because you wouldn't make a statement like that, just by the by.
It's too bold a statement, isn't it, David? It really is. Such a bold statement. It's really the most clear-cut thing we've heard any politician come out with, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's very exciting. It makes me wonder. And he's doing a lot of interviews now. He just started stepping up the interviews over the last couple of weeks, and I would say he's just getting started. But yeah, he's definitely got my vote. And anybody who who's in Australia who wants to see real freedom, and not just freedom for the people, but a completely different way of living, because his policies are very interesting. If anybody hasn't read them yet, I highly suggest that you read. You might not agree with all of them, and that's okay, but he's got some really good ones in there.
Brilliant. What sort of things has he got in there that really appeal to you? Because I haven't read his policies. I've just seen his interviews, and for me, it's just so wonderful to see someone like him standing up. Of course, we've got Mr. T in America, but apart from that, there's very few of them actually standing up. And it's just so refreshing to see someone really putting it out there unapologetically. And so what sort of policies is he standing for?
Well, he's got some interesting ones that may cause people to think twice, and that's only natural, you know. So like he's got some funny ones, like he's gonna, because vaping's banned here, so he's gonna
Yeah,
legalize that, and people are like, well, why would you do that? You know, he's like, well, I think people should have the choice about what they want to do. You know, it's not the government's decision whether
yeah,
you do it or not. You know, it's if you want to do it, do it. You know, they legalized smoking, didn't they? So
yeah.
uh, that's one. But more interestingly, he's got other ones, like he wants to get it to the point, the economy to the point where he's going to bring all the manufacturing back. He's going to make it so we only need one person in the house earning an income that's going to be able to support the entire family, which I think is amazing, because obviously
Brilliant.
the a lot of the problems that we've had is because of not just inflation, but it's it's made it so that we need to have two incomes, and that's
Absolutely.
caused a lot of problems in the family unit, you know. So and he's got a bunch of other great ones too, and I can't remember them all, but he does have some really interesting policies.
That just sounds absolutely amazing. And, you know, the whole point of what we're looking for moving forward, I think, is choice. It's interesting because when you were saying earlier about some of the politicians now turning around, I've been doing a lot of thinking about this from my point of view. So, an example that I would use is I can remember about 5 or 6 years ago when they started bringing in a lot more surveillance cameras on the street. Now, I'm the
Mm,
type of person, I live in the middle of the countryside and I'm happy as Larry walking around the countryside on my own. But city centres, getting trains back late at night on your own and things like that, as a woman, it makes me quite nervous. So when I saw these surveillance cameras popping up on station platforms and things, as a woman traveling back on my own, I felt really comfortable with that. And I thought, thank goodness, it gives me a little bit of security. But I think it's like everything, these tools can be used for the good or the evil. So there's a lot of technology that can be used for the good and also for the evil. I will put my hand up. I completely bought in to the false flag events that they've had in America over the last goodness knows how many years. So up until probably nearly 2 years ago now, I thought it was
mm.
absolutely ridiculous that, because in the UK, we're not allowed to own firearms unless you've got a special license for a reason. So I couldn't own a gun. And I used to think, how ridiculous, they're letting all the Americans own guns. And of course, I've completely fell for the propaganda. And then they're having all these mass shootings. And no wonder they're having mass shootings because every nutter's got a gun. And then
Yeah.
I heard a brilliant interview with I can't even remember, an old rock star on London Real. And he explained it. And it was just at the start of the pandemic. And he
Mm.
explained it in a way I've never heard it in before. And the penny just dropped for me. And I was like, oh my God. And at the same time, I got into listening to Ollie Damagard. I don't know if you listen to him. He's got a brilliant Patreon channel.
I've heard of him, but no, I
Oh,
haven't
he's
listened
amazing.
to
I would really recommend anyone goes to Ollie Damagard, his Patreon channel, because he is probably the world expert on false flag events. Probably shouldn't be
it.
saying that. I'll write that again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Wavy flappy things in the wind events, and the penny just dropped to me, and it never had before. And then I was like, thank God, keep your guns, Americans, keep your guns, you know. So
Mm.
do you think you can have these where the brainwashing suddenly wears off and you see it with a clean pair of eyes? And then, so I think probably with some of the politicians, I think a lot of them are just probably turning to because they know that their numbers are, and I wouldn't have a lot. And I think that's going to be very obvious in the coming months and years in terms of what they have been up to and which ones have genuinely had the wool pulled over their eyes and which ones are just panicking and trying to save their own skins, do you think?
I think so. Let's hope more so months than years, because I
Yes.
think in years, who knows what will happen. But no, I agree with you, because one of Ricardo's policies is actually the right to own a firearm, because we
Yeah.
had an event, as you probably know, back in '96 where they took all our guns away, and that was a staged event, and
Yeah.
so it's very
You
interesting. And
realize at the time, did you think that was staged, or did you
I
think,
was only 13, so yeah, I thought it was real.
yeah,
Yeah, but as far as all the other events go in the US, like you were talking about, yeah, I've been onto them for a long time, and sometimes they make it so obvious. I
yeah,
mean, and I think because something Michelle Feeding was saying was like the White Hats have been in control for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true, but at the same time, I wouldn't doubt it, because you look at some of the stuff that's happened over the last 15 years. For instance, certain witnesses at these events keep popping up the same event.
Same
Like,
one.
why would, yeah, same witness, 3 different events or something. And then you look at the Boston one, which was interesting, and it was so obvious that they got the photograph of one of the would-be bombers, and just photoshopped the crap out of it, and his arm was all weird, and they just made it look like it just looked so stupid. So why would they, like, why would they do that?
Exactly. And
I think it's possible that they have been in control for a while, and they just put these things out so we're more aware of it, right?
the other thing I think, I'd love your opinion on this, is I think a lot of where the anger's coming, because there's so many people saying, well, if the White Hats are in control, what's happening with this? But I think there's a misunderstanding of what we mean control, because just if you are overall on the winning side, I mean, take a football game, soccer, football, whatever you want to call it, real football I'm talking about, not the other types. Talking about soccer football. Now, you could be winning 3-0 in that game. So you could say that that team are in control, the winning team in control, but it doesn't mean that they're not mispossessed. And it doesn't mean that the other team aren't still going to score a goal. So I think where we get into confusion is, I think a lot of people, and I understand why, because there's such desperation, and I don't think any of us can believe what's happened, of the last year and a half. But just because they're in control doesn't mean they can't stop the other team scoring a goal. They're not in complete control. Otherwise, the other team would just sit down on the pitch and give up, and they're not going to do that. So I think this is where a lot of the confusion comes, is of course there's still a lot of bad stuff happening, even if the White Hats are in control. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think it's a great analogy. If it is a chess match, it's a fight to the death no matter what. Pieces are going to get lost on both sides. So, I think that really kind of sums it up, because especially in an operation as monumentally large as this one, right? You can't have a finger on every pulse.
No.
I just don't think it's possible. You never know, you know what I mean? Like, there are millions of these people, these people, I'm going to use the word people kind of loosely, you know what I mean? There are millions of these people out there on the dark side, for whatever reason. So you can't possibly control them all.
And so many reasons. And control, I mean, we're all hearing so much about the mind control, the MK Ultra, and a lot of the general population who aren't watching videos like this wouldn't have a clue what we're talking about when we say MK Ultra. And I can't even remember when that came into my awareness, but I was certainly aware for a long while that any of these stars like Britney Spears and Take That and Kylie Minogue and things like this, I was certainly very well aware that no way would I want their lives, because they are not in control of their lives. Now, I didn't realize how badly things were for them, but certainly you could see there was a huge amount of exploitation at every level with these people. And I think this is the other thing, is like I get quite annoyed when some people talk about, oh, it's all a movie. But again, I think it's just how we're interpreting that world, because it is all an illusion. Because when you look at what we've all been brought up to aspire to, I mean, where I live in the UK, I'm living in quite an affluent area of the UK. And if you go to, out for drinks or meet people things, the first thing they ask is normally, what does your husband do for a job? And what do you do for a job? And therein goes the conversation. Whereas I've got other people who are living what I would call a much more natural, unpretentious life, that they wouldn't even think of asking what you did for a job. It wouldn't be important to them at all. But we've all been taught to aspire for fame, fortune, in whatever way that might. Not everyone wants to be famous, but a lot of people think that, money buys happiness. But certainly lack of money makes you much more controllable, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's funny that we've been programmed so much around money. You know, we're programmed to think it's scarce. We're programmed to think it's wrong to want to make it, you know, and
Yeah.
at the same time, you can't do anything without it. So you're programmed to hate the very thing you need to live. It is almost like saying programming someone to hate food, you know,
Yes.
because and it's ridiculous. And I was watching Spiritually Raw a couple of days ago or yesterday, and they were having a chat about spirituality and what it means to be abundant in all areas of your life. And
I
people are like,
watched
well,
it too as well.
you saw that one?
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
haven't seen it for ages. Was that the one with Kelly Rivers?
No. This is just
Oh,
a couple of days ago.
okay,
But
yeah,
they probably say it in a lot of their shows though.
yeah, I think they
And
do. My friend Kelly Rivers was on with them talking about the same thing. Very good. Sorry, carry on. Yeah.
yeah, so they were saying that people ask them, "Oh, how can you be spiritual and charge for your work?" You know, like it's a bad thing that somebody wants to make money when that person has a job, I assume. You know, that person gets paid for their time. Why shouldn't somebody else get paid for their time? And you expect somebody to do something. By and large, you know, they put a lot of free videos out there on YouTube anyway. Like they're doing a lot more than that person's doing, I'm sure, you know, for free. And then when they want to go make some money because they need to, you know, all of a sudden it's a bad thing, which I think is crazy.
I'm so pleased you brought that up because again, now I'm seeing I'm not going to mention the name of the person because it's someone actually I really respect and like their work, but one of the other truthers who does a lot of truth videos was talking on their channel with a couple of women about, now this was exactly the same time, so I watched the Spiritual Raw one because everyone with my friends Kelly Rivers having exactly the same conversation. It was a really lovely conversation, so I think that's on Kelly Rivers YouTube channel. And on the same day, because I listen to a lot of stuff, I don't watch a lot of stuff, but when I'm looking after the animals, because I've got my little rescue sanctuary, or if I'm driving or walking the dogs, quite often I'll listen to stuff. And there was another
Mm.
really good truther having a conversation, and I was really shocked actually on the opposite end of the scale on the same day. And he was saying with his two women visitors, guests on his show, that he thinks it's absolutely disgusting, and you can tell which are the real people that really want to help because they're the ones that aren't charging and they're not monetizing and they're not doing this and doing that. And I was really horrified to hear him say that, because to me, I agree with you completely. Money is just the same as water, as food. It's just an energy exchange of the world that we're currently living in. Now, things might well change in the future, but for example, okay, I'll just, because you can only talk about yourself really with integrity, because I know what my life's like. I have got a lot of rescue animals. Most of the rescue animals that I have come to me with what a human would label as severe issues, whether it's physical or behavioral issues. So I quite often get the ones, not always, but quite a lot of mine are the ones that they found difficult to rehome. And that takes
Mm.
huge amount of resources, both time and money, for me to look after and care for them properly. And there is a link, whether you want to think about it or not, of you know, time and money. So I could be doing my old consultancy job and earning a massive amount of money and paying someone else to look after them, which I've chosen not to do because I think they need me as their mum. You know, going back to what you said about Ricardo Bossi, I grew up when I've got two children, they're grown up now, 19 and 21. And I was one of the ones where we both had to work right from the start just to keep a roof over our heads and keep food on the table. And hindsight's a wonderful thing. And even though I'm very motivated and love doing things, I would have loved to have had a choice so that we could have parents spent more time with our children growing up. Now they're fantastic children, and you know, I can't change it now, but I really aspire for them to have different choices if they choose to have children. My four-legged children, my rescue animals, they're my responsibility now, and I want to be able to spend time with them. So to hear people really slating people who are doing work like we are and things, and then saying that it's completely irresponsible and immoral to be making any money out of it. I don't think people realize how much money it costs for equipment. Like at the moment, I've got a tiny little computer screen and I need a bigger screen, which I need, that costs money to buy. And that will enable me to do my job and share things easier and better. I was speaking to a friend that's helping me out today about, because obviously we all know that the channel that this is going on is ridiculously censored, and that hasn't improved at all at the moment. In fact, there's been another cull over the last week. But I was trying to upload to some of my videos to BitChute, and sometimes it works fine and other times it just doesn't work at all. So I've also got my own website, catherineedwards.life, but that costs a huge amount of money to run. The StreamYard costs a lot of money to do the live shows, the Zoom membership, the MailChimp. So even just to do what people think is just sitting here and doing a video, we're all spending quite a lot of our own money just to be able to put a video out, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, my costs aren't anywhere near as much as yours, you know what I mean? But there are people out there that have, costs that exceed yours too. And
absolutely.
so
Yes. Once you
look at
start
look Vinny Armin, look at his new setup, and you've got, like Anne Vandersteel said, you've got to compete. You're competing with all these other podcasters that have been in the game for a long time. You've got to look professional. My channel, I don't really care. I mean, I'm just doing this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not in that league. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm not wearing a suit or anything, I could, but I don't. And maybe I will one day. Maybe we should do a video one time where we dress up. But yeah, it's insane. I think it's quite interesting because you're literally asking someone to just give up their time for no return.
Yeah.
And you know what happens when that happens. You just get burnt out. When there's no energy exchange, after a while, you just can't keep doing it. And even if money wasn't a factor, you know what I mean? You still need some sort of exchange.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I've had some lovely people write into me, and I feel awful because I haven't got back to them yet, because it's got to the stage where, and I'm not moaning about this at all, but it gets so many people emailing in. Actually, if I'm not on top of it, I lose ones and they get lost in the ether. So if anyone's emailed me and I haven't got back to you and it's one of the people that has offered me this, please do. I really don't mean to be rude, but send it in again. But some people have said to me, could you ask to be in this? Could you look into this? Could you give me advice on this? And in return, they've said, well, I'm a healer. I'm very happy to give you a free session. And I just love that. It's not that I'm after freebies. I love the fact that people are looking to say, look, we're in this together. We can contribute. It's a give and take in this world. It doesn't matter whether it's swapping an egg for a potato, or, can you give one of my neighbors, can you give my mum and dad a lift to the shop, and I'll let your dogs out when you want to go and visit your son, sort of thing. It's not that it's you've got to do something. It's the fact that you want to help each other out. It's the fact that we want to be living in a community where we all understand that we don't have to do everything, and therefore we've all got our different skills and our different passions. So let's spread that around for the good of everyone, and no job is more or less important than any of the others.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. I've been offered different sessions as well, just because of you put videos out there and people recognize it and they go, I'd like to give you X or whatever.
Isn't it?
Which is awesome. Yeah. I mean, not everybody has to do it. That's okay. I don't expect it either. But
no,
it's just a nice exchange, really, and it's really just bartering at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it. I love bartering, don't you? I really, really love it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that will come back in some way on a larger scale. I think let's hope so anyway, because I mean, it doesn't. You can still do it now, but let's just hope that more people get into that mindset of offering it, because then it will just grow, right?
It's fantastic. I mean, my mum was saying that when we were young, my sisters and I were really young, their community then, it was very accepted because they didn't have big supermarkets where you could just go in and do your whole weekly shop in one go. They had to go to the greengrocers and the butchers and the electricians, and and there was no online shopping or anything like that. So she was saying it's really lovely because in the streets, you might have, like, my mum had 3 children under 3. It's quite difficult to go and do your shopping with all the things, and, with no more cons with that. So, one of the neighbours would look after us while she went and did the shopping, and then she'd look after their children whilst they went and did the shopping. And it was just a perfectly normal part of community life. And it was lovely, and it worked really, really well and made life a lot less stressful for everyone. And I think this is really, I saw this a lot at the start of the lockdown, where people were very conscious about the elderly people in their community who perhaps didn't want to go into shops and things like this, but it very quickly died off. And this is what I found was quite sad, is, you know, initially everyone stepped up and really started helping, but where I am, it didn't last very long. I must say, it really didn't last very long.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Well, I just thought, from my point of view, I'm really bad at asking for help. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering whether, you know, as we say, everything's an energy exchange. So if I ask someone for help, then they're going to feel much more comfortable asking me back for help. So I wonder whether it's just a question of restarting that behavior again. What do you reckon?
Possibly. Yeah, I think people, humanity as a whole has a bit of a problem asking for help because maybe it shows a sign of weakness. Who knows what the reason is?
Yeah.
You know, everybody may have a different reason, but no, I think it's okay. It's okay to ask for help. You know, I think where I would draw the line is if people keep asking you, you know, and or just keep complain, you know, because I'm happy to listen to someone's problem once and help them problem solve, but if they just keep coming back with the same problem, then I don't want to hear it anymore, you know?
I was having this conversation with a really good, I do a series of animal health videos with my really, really good friend, Dr. Timo. He's a vet. And we were just saying, we've both got quite a lot of acquaintances where every time you see them, then, you know, you can be going to a dinner party or out for drinks, and all they want to do is ask advice about their animal's health. It's a bit like, you know, if I'm inviting a friend over that's a hairdresser, I don't sit down and serve the dinner and then say, well, before I feed you, can you just cut my hair for free, you know? And
Yeah.
it's a funny scenario where you don't mind, but when people keep asking your advice and then ignoring all of it, then you just think, and the problems keep materializing, then you keep thinking, well, actually, you know, I just don't want to have this conversation again. You know, you don't, if you're asking someone for advice and things, it's not that you have to take it, but then don't, as you say, don't keep asking and keep
Mm.
not making any changes yourself. You have to take responsibility. And I think everyone who's been doing videos throughout this time, new people, like, I mean, I never expected to be doing this, but I keep doing it because I love the people that I'm meeting, and I love having fascinating conversations with people like you. You know, we'd have never have met, would we, if it wasn't
No,
for this?
no. Yeah.
And it's just fascinating, just really seeing how connected across the globe people are, and how it doesn't matter whether you're in Australia, the UK, America, Vietnam, wherever it might be. A lot of the core issues that are really important to us are the same wherever we are, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah. I think also that it's interesting because at the very first rally that we had last year, over a year ago now, I was standing there and I was thinking, you know, they want to divide us, but in causing this situation, they brought a whole pile of strangers together that wouldn't have ever got together, right? So they really kind of screwed themselves up in many ways just by doing it, right? And also at any point, you know, because it was so in the shadows, right? The whole agenda was really in the shadows, unless you kind of knew what to look for, or you've been onto it for a while, you wouldn't have known anything was going on. Uh, but now that we're in this situation where they've ramped it up and they're speeding it up and everything, it's almost like you can't see it, you know, you can't not see it. Sorry,
Yeah.
and because it's so obvious. I mean, there's still some people out there who don't see it, but the majority of people are seeing it, you know, and I think that's what matters the most.
You're so right. It has brought so many people together. And also, so I was having a conversation at the weekend after a few glasses of wine, where there were a group of us, and there were some of us who were very much online with you and I, and a few of the others that were not online with that at all. And we were just sort of saying, okay, let's just take one issue. Let's just take this issue. So does everyone admit that they've clearly said that this does not stop transmission? And they had to admit, yes, they understood it doesn't stop transmission. So then we're saying, well, why then is it so important to get everyone to have it? So if this doesn't stop transmission, why is it of benefit to society, to everyone, to have it? So then their answer was so as not to overrun the hospitals, because if you've had this, you're much less likely to get serious health complications, because obviously that's what they've told everyone. But then we just asked, well, is that true? From what we're seeing now, is that true? And even they sort of said, well, I don't know. They didn't say, no, it's not true, because they're not looking at the same channels as we are. But even they said, well, doesn't really make sense as to why the ones that have supposedly got the highest rate have got the highest case numbers, sort of thing. So I think, you know, even if you don't believe anything else of what we might believe is going on with the corruption, with the things that's happening to the little people, with the you know, if you take the Georgia Guidestones and what's written on them and what they might be all about. So even if all of that is far too much for you to sort of even consider might have any truth in it, if you just look at the handling of this situation and say, does it make sense from, and then we sort of said, well, why would they ban things like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say them, the drugs that have been used for years to treat all sorts of conditions. One's well known as a natural, as not as natural, as a pharmaceutical drug for parasite infections, and one's used as a drug for being used for years for things like malaria. Now those drugs have been used for ages, so why would you suddenly ban their use? You know, if this is about health, why would you ban their use suddenly when they've been on the market for over 50 years? And again, they couldn't answer that. So I think a lot of people, it's gone on too long now, and they've been too frantic in their pushing to even make a lot of people that don't want to know, don't know about the other stuff, start thinking this is very odd.
Yeah. And you made so many great points, but I think one of the, we're at this because they're pushing it so hard now, and in Israel they're up to the second booster now, the fourth one, the fourth shot, or the fourth thing, and over east in New South Wales they just rolled out the third one, the first booster, right?
We've had loads done here, David.
Oh, you have? Okay, so that's got to get people thinking, right? Like, well, I'm going to lose my status, you know, if I don't get the thing. And I was having a chat with a friend yesterday who lives in Europe, and I said, have they rolled out the boosters? And he goes, nah, not yet. Don't know when they're doing it. And he's already had his two. And I said, are you going to have to? He goes, are you going to have to get it if you want to go traveling? I said, well, first of all, the traveling hasn't been opened up yet. They're thinking about opening it next month, but my state isn't going to open up. So, and my passport expires in 20 days anyway. I'm not going to renew it until there's no point unless you know, until I can be absolutely sure that I can travel freely without any hindrances. But when I asked him, I said, oh, are you going to have to get it to maintain the status? And he goes, probably. I'm not 100% sure, but that is going to be the case, you know, for everyone. So I think at that point, I mean, there are going to be some people that get it for sure, but I think the majority of people won't get the third one because they'll go, well, what the hell? And there's going to be a fourth one and a fifth and so on. So,
well, over here, I don't know if it's like this and any of the other people that you've been speaking to in other countries, what is quite unbelievable, and it's all over social media. So quite a lot of my friends who are my age group, so I'm early 50s, and so they've rolled it out for anyone over 50 or with anyone with social needs. But not only are they giving the third booster, they're giving it at the same time as the flu jab. And there's all these people that are saying, I'm fantastic, and are proudly declaring that they're, I quote directly off Facebook, I am a walking vaccine. I've had this one and this one for the first thing. And then the booster one they've had is a different company. So say they've had the AstraZeneca, then the third one's and then they've had it at the same time as the flu vaccine. And I just like, my God, but I've heard so many brilliant explanations. And I suppose this winter will tell, it will tell how mad we are or not, but I've heard so many brilliant explanations about how if we're thinking that this might have something to do with the prophecies in the Georgia Guidestones, then without using some of the trigger words, then this winter is going to be key in terms of seeing what happens with the death rates, isn't it? And if any
Oh yeah, for sure.
starts to happen.
Yeah.
What's very sad, as I said, is it's very sad when you're seeing the younger people in particular. I'm not saying that older people's lives don't matter as much, but a lot of people, say of my age, you know, we've done loads of traveling all our lives and things. And so if I couldn't leave the UK again, it, you know, it's not that big a deal to me because I've been to so many places, had the most amazing time when I was younger, traveling around, worked abroad and things like this. But for my children and things, I feel really heartbroken because I know those were just such amazing times for me. And I spent a lot of time traveling around Australia, had the best time ever. And you know, I just think I can see why when you're young and you've got your whole life ahead of you, you want to try and maintain choices. You think you're making a decision to maintain a choice. And it's really sad when you realize actually you're not, that it's not going to, could actually take a lot of choices away from you. Because if you suddenly get something that then leaves you with health conditions that could put you at real risk of getting on an airplane.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really bad. Unfortunately, yeah, a lot of people did do it for the travel, you know.
That seems to be one of the key reasons, travel or keeping their job, doesn't it? Or protecting other people when they're not protecting them because they're still transmitting it. Oh,
yeah. Well, unfortunately, that the media has just, and the governments have just brainwashed us into thinking that it's kind of like your civil duty, you know, to take it. And you know, I had a conversation with somebody a couple of months ago who asked me if I was going to, he just flat out asked me, we were at a dinner, and he was like, "So you're going to get it?" And I was like, "No, I'm not going to get it." And he's like, "Why not?" And I said my thing, and I was like, "What about you?" He said, "Yeah, I've already had mine, both of them." I was like, "Okay, what was, you know, what was the thought process behind that?" And he goes, "I just feel like it's, you know, my duty to society pretty much to do it." And, you know, that's admirable, but you just didn't do your due diligence, you know?
yeah, absolutely. And I think most of us would say, you know, if I genuinely thought that, you know, looked into it and genuinely thought that there was a good reason like that to do it, I'd seriously consider sort of for choices. But what I have been doing and what I've been really loving, or just before we get on to some other, because I wanted to ask you some health related questions. I see you've got Kylie Minogue back home. I see she's moved back to Australia.
I don't
That must
know.
be exciting.
Tina Arena did. Tina Arena did. I haven't heard about Kylie Minogue, but
Right.
it's interesting. Somebody said that, yeah, it's interesting that that Tina Arena came back because I think she was in France for quite a while, and I don't know. Could it be unrelated to Kylie Minogue coming back? Yeah. Could it be related? Yeah. You know, who knows? Uh, you know, it's interesting because I saw. I never watch the news, but it's always on at the gym. So I always get to see a little few snippets here and there. And most of the time it's just propaganda. But what I have seen recently is a lot of celebrities coming up for air, like George Clooney and a lot of other, you know, a few other people doing interviews again. And
Really?
George Clooney, look, yeah, because George Clooney was in at a premiere in London, I think. I
Oh.
think.
Oh, probably the James Bond one, was it?
I don't know, but I'm seeing some of these celebrities, and I look at them and I go, there's something that just doesn't seem quite right about their face. You know, like it's just a little feature or something is a little bit different. And, you know, if you look at Khloe Kardashian's Instagram, she looks like a completely different person like now than she did, you know,
I
a
don't
while
know
ago.
what she looks like anyway. I've never been in. I wouldn't recognize them if they were standing behind me in the queue. So, but
And
that's
unless they've had a lot of plastic surgery or,
yeah,
you know, because people don't change that much. I know people that have lost a ton of weight and still look the
yeah,
same in the, you know,
yes,
in the face, really, just apart from the body, of course. But, you know, in the face, they still
yeah,
look the same, uh, largely the same. You don't change that much. And these people didn't weren't massively overweight or anything. They just all of a sudden, you know, they were quite slim, I suppose, and then they look very different. And people like Reese Witherspoon and Katy Perry and you know some other people too. They're a little bit different. I don't know
yes.
what it is,
I agree.
and yeah,
And people be saying that about us soon as well. Do I look different? So Oh dear. So one of the things I'm really liking at the moment is how many people of all sorts of, whether it's healers, whether it's doctors, whether it's Dr. Christian Northrop, whether it's Robert O. Young, whether it's Andreas Kalk and things, there's so many people stepping up and giving people solutions, to general solutions to empower themselves back to health, which is really wonderful. And that's something that I mean, that's what my day-to-day work is and passion is really about. Mine is all on the natural remedies side of things. I've got my lovely, this is just amazing, this Roots brand clean slate. It's just fantastic
Oh
in
yeah.
terms of the results I'm seeing with this. But isn't it wonderful? So I've been doing a lot on the health side of stuff. There's loads of brilliant information out there. Again, masses of it free for people to look at what that steps they can start doing. And you've been doing loads on the music side of things, haven't you, David?
Yeah, I've been writing some songs recently, and a lot of it draws from things that are going on in the world, and obviously my personal experience is a huge one, but yeah.
So is that your therapy for you? Is that because is that your, when you're writing and performing, is that your stress relief and your way of putting positivity back into the world?
Yeah, I watched a video on Telegram where this woman said, um, I'll paraphrase the video, but basically she said, "Oh, what's coming down the pipeline and where we're headed is something completely magical. But right now, it doesn't look like that. It looks absolutely terrible." And she had this analogy where she had this pyramid of sugar cubes. It was like massive triangular pyramid of sugar cubes. And she said that then she poured like some water in, and she said the pyramid is the structure of the system that we have in on the earth right now. And the people at the very top, the people uh, at the very top of the pyramid, they're so engrossed in the system that they'll be the last ones to kind of unplug and the last ones to
Yeah.
fall, which makes sense. But it's not really necessarily destroying the system so that everybody's displaced. It's bring them into the new system and everyone kind of amalgamating together, right? But when she poured the water into the thing that was holding the sugar cubes, it all kind of just dissolved really quickly. It was really cool to see, and it kind of it really was a good analogy of what we're seeing
Yeah.
right now. And I know it's not as what we're seeing right now is nowhere near as peaceful as watching sugar cubes melt into the water, but it's because when a system dies, when anything dies, it doesn't die easily,
Yeah.
especially something that's been in place for thousands of years. There's going to be a lot of resistance, in my journey, when I was working really hard to change my paradigms and stuff, a few years ago, my subconscious mind threw up so much resistance. I lived a life of hell for about a year and a bit. It was just the worst year of my life, and it was really, really bad. But now, on the other side of that, is completely magical. It's like I would do it again if I knew what was on the other side. But at the time, I thought it was the worst thing in the world.
Wow, that's wonderful. And I know from our sort of on-camera discussions, you're really starting to spend more and more of your time doing the things that you're really passionate about. And your music is amazing. We've got a nice little surprise to end the show in a minute. But, it is so important that people really refocus at least some of their, of course we need to be informed so that we can make the best possible choices for ourselves and anyone that depends on us, and for the planet and humanity as a whole. But I never say just humanity, because I include the whole planet, animal, plants and everything in that, which humanity can
Yeah.
live out. But have you found a shift since you started spending more time on your music, which is such a passion of yours? Have you noticed that that has shifted things for you?
Uh, well, when you do things that you're passionate about, it obviously raises your vibration. So that's one thing there. I think that it's, yeah, I would say yes. I've been doing music for a while since I decided to kind of I wanted to pursue it as a full-time thing. That's one of my big goals, right? But when I decided to make the shift and actually do it, you know what I mean? Like actually put the work in to go and do it, was the start of like 2019. And I moved from Melbourne to Perth, and you might know I was an accountant for a while, and it was like 10 years really. And so I spent a good portion of my life just believing that music was never going to happen for me. You know, it was never going to be a thing that I was, even in, you know, 4 years ago, even 3 years ago, actually, I said to somebody, all right, I've come to terms with the fact that music is just never going to happen for me. I'm just going to go do this and then blah, 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 you know. But after a while, I have a friend in America, and she was a little bit older than me, and she was part of this group that I was a part of. And she said, David, you should be doing music. Why aren't you doing music? You always talk about it. But what happened was at the start of 2019, I was really excited about starting the year. You know, 2019, I was like, this is going to be a really good year. 2018 was a vast improvement on 2017, which was the worst year of my life. And then I got to New Year's Eve, and I was like, I wasn't so excited anymore. And I said to her, I said, I don't know what it is, but I'm just not excited as I thought I was. And she goes, well, this is why. This is why I think you're not excited. So why aren't you doing it? And I said, oh, all these different reasons, or a bunch of excuses. And she said, well, let's formulate a plan so that you can move yourself in that direction. And you know, that was 2 years ago, and here we are. And you know, I started releasing covers a few months, you know, maybe March or February this year, and started writing songs and recording them around the same time. And you know, I think that the biggest point that I want to highlight is that when you have this goal, whatever it is, you know, you may think that it's impossible. But what you really need to do is just get the ball rolling. It doesn't, you know, just make a start, because you start to build momentum, and then things will happen quicker and quicker and quicker. And it's not like you're just going up this thing, right? Eventually it will be like that for a while, but eventually we'll start to go parabolic, you know, and you'll get better at whatever it is, your art or your craft or your skill set or whatever it is that you're doing, you know. And I think that it really just comes down to challenging that belief, because we're taught not to chase our dreams. We're taught that they're just pipe dreams, they're never going to happen. But now we have the internet. You know, if it wasn't for the internet, I wouldn't be able to do none of us would be able to do what we're doing.
Exactly.
You know? And so, but we do have the internet, and you can put out whatever it is that you want on a website, on a social media platform. And yeah, you might not get any followers straight away, but you know, everybody starts at zero. So, you know, you've got to just start it and enjoy the journey. If you don't enjoy the journey, that's what makes it really difficult.
I just think it's lovely. And, you know, I think it was a couple of talks ago that we were doing, and I just said to you, I just noticed a complete shift in you, just in the time that I've known you for sort of the last year. And I just think it's so important that people start making time to follow their passions and do it for themselves, not for the external validation, but to
Yeah,
do it for themselves, because it makes them feel good about themselves, because that's, everyone has got a talent, absolutely everyone. I can assure you mine
for
is not
sure.
music. I'd love to be good at music, but I'm not. Although I did meet someone once when I was in a retreat in America that said that absolutely she can teach anyone to sing. And funny enough, I used to be a really good singer at school. And
Right.
when I was young enough to not be worried about what others think. And then as soon as other people started telling you what it meant to be a good singer or not, because I can remember I used to get the solo singing, and isn't it weird? And now I said I can't sing, but I used to be able to sing before
Yeah.
someone told me that I couldn't, sort of thing. And then suddenly it switches off and you never go back. But yeah, I think it's lovely. So shall we, before we sort of, we're going to play out with one of your most recent songs. So tell the listeners about your songs and where they can find you. And then David, afterwards, can you make sure you send me the link so that I can tell everyone where they can find your music?
Yeah, thank you. So the link is, I've only released one song so far. My plan would be to release one a month, but the link that I sent you is the link that they can go and check it out.
Okay, so
So
that's the one I put under the video.
the
Yeah.
page, yeah. And so this particular song is a song that I wrote about a social media incident that I had with somebody in my friend circle, and I even just shared the post. It was somebody wrote a post, and it said, "It's not the government's responsibility to take care of my health or protect my health. It's the government's responsibility to protect my rights." And I thought that's a really good piece of information. I'm going to share that, and then as you do, you get met with some backlash every now and then. And this person said that you're selfish. You know, just be, you know, like basically you're selfish. If you want to be part of this society, you need to fall in line, pretty, you know, do what's right or whatever. And and but you wouldn't. So I'm saying I'm going to take responsibility for my health, but in the comment they're saying, but you're not going to take responsibility for your actions if you get somebody sick. And I'm like, where's the argument? Just a bit of a
Yes,
hole in that argument. I'm just already saying that I'm going to do this, this, and this, you know, to you know, protect myself, which in turn protects other people. You know, like if someone goes to the gym and maintains their health and they get sick less, isn't that better for everybody else too? You know,
exactly.
and so anyway, after that, I, you know, did a response, but then I thought, you know, I'm going to write about this and turn it to something positive, and I wrote this song, and I shared it with you, and I've shared it with a few other people, and they really enjoyed it. I think it was one of the one I've got the best reception from. So I thought I'd release that one first, and it's a bit of a soul, kind of a bit of a soul piece. You know what I mean? Like a kind of a bit, you know, the music, the genre soul. It's a little bit like that. I didn't really know what genre it was, but it wasn't. It was originally going to be a rock song, but I thought, nah, it doesn't. I don't think it needs to be a rock song. I think it's just going to be guitar, and that's it.
I loved it. Yeah, you shared it with me, and I listened to it first time on a dog walk, and it was really timely because I just met a friend for lunch who said a very, you know, similar sort of thing. Well, you know, if we all don't comply and do what we're told, then, you know, it's just ruining it for all of us and everything. And they meant it. They meant it for the best will. That was truly their belief system.
Mm.
But there wasn't any opening to have a discussion. Then the discussion was, and I just don't want to hear any of your opinions. That was it, which I've got quite used to. So it's probably why I like doing
Yeah.
this and talking to you, because but so I'm going to play out with this song. We can stay on line. Let's do it. I have to put my computer screen so small, I have to put. So let me play this and you tell me if it's working. And I will put all the links. Thank you so much for our chat, David. Let's do it again soon. And this is for everyone who's listening and has been through a similar situation. It's called Nothing About Me by David Cowan Music.
It's a bit soft.
It's a bit soft.
Yeah.
I can get it. It's the highest I can get it. Can you hear?
It's a bit choppy.
Speak my truth. You don't
Yeah.
want me to.
It's a bit in and out, but I think it may be okay.
Conflicts with you. Rattles your delicate world. You're making assumptions. You know nothing about me. You're making assumptions. You know nothing about me. Call me selfish like that. want you to know you know nothing about me. You're making assumptions, you know nothing about me. You're making assumptions, you know nothing about me.
I know it was a bit choppy. My internet reception's not good, but I'm going to put the link for anyone below here. I just absolutely love it. I know people can support you by purchasing that. So if you can, guys, it's really important. Let's all help each other follow our dreams.
Thank you so much for playing it. It really, really means the world to me. And that was the debut. So never, you know, the world exclusive.
Yeah, world exclusive. So yeah, my internet connection not the best, but thanks, David. Let's do this again in a couple of weeks if you're up for it. And thank you everyone who's listening, and onwards and upwards. Take care.
Thanks, Catherine.